There was a sheriff's office in Washington State that was requesting a Coast Guard helicopter assist with an injured hiker in the vicinity of Tatoosh Lakes, south of Mount Rainier.
And we got a call from the command center asking us to come in there. When we walked in the command center, the CDO, the command duty officer, told us that it was one of ours that had fallen down. And we're like, what? Petty Officer Ben Jilka was hiking up near Tatoosh Lakes on Mount Rainier, along with an FS2 from Station Cape Disappointment. He apparently fell, and the FS2 called in.
Already in the air following another successful rescue, the crew of CG-6013 returned to refuel and head directly to Mount Rainier to attempt a rescue. The decision was made to add a second rescue swimmer to the flight, given the unknown situation the crew was heading into. This decision would prove to be critical to the success of the rescue.
Although I was very concerned at this point about darkness, we were looking at, by now, about 7 o'clock in the evening, maybe 7:30 in the evening, and I was afraid that we were going to get to a point where it was going to be dark and they would have a hard time locating the injured hiker and his companion.
It wasn't until nightfall that I really started getting concerned, and I was just getting so cold and shivering so badly that I knew I would have froze to death, and that would have been that.
We were up there, probably got on scene with a couple hours of daylight left, and did the search. Were able to locate the first survivor in daylight. So by the time they got on the ground, they had about an hour of daylight left, and then they worked pretty much through the night. I don't think that they got recovered until early into the morning. They had to work their way down a pretty sheer face at nighttime using headlamps and just calling kind of back and forth to each other. So I can only imagine what that was like in the dark.
It took them like an hour and a half, 2 hours to make it down and actually find me, because they didn't know exactly where I was. They kind of had an idea, but no communication with me, and Cindy didn't quite know where I was in the dark.
When they found Ben, he was in pretty rough shape. Hypothermia was starting to set in, as well as I believe he had broken both legs and dislocated a shoulder and broken an arm. But had they not shown up that night and been able to take care of him, probably the hypothermia alone would have gotten to him, and it would not have been a pleasant outcome.
The crew of CG-6013 picked up the hiking companion of the survivor and was called off of the case after a very long day. CG-6035 arrived on scene to complete the rescue and hoist the rescue swimmers and survivor to safety in treacherous conditions.
We arrived at Mount Rainier, positively located the swimmers who were on the side of this very steep slope. We could identify their headlamps with our night vision goggles from a few miles away, and we made contact with them and then formulated a plan for how we were going to proceed with the rescue.
We knew my back was broken and they were worried about a neck injury, so we had to get me on a backboard.
So between Petty Officer Staller-Hollow and Petty Officer Gansel, they were able to help one another out. If we had only had one of those on scene, then it probably wouldn't have turned out like it did. They not only had to get themselves down an extremely treacherous slope, but once they reached Petty Officer Jilka, they had to maneuver him into the backboard and then somehow get him further down to an area that we could safely hoist him.
Once the rescue swimmers were ready to perform the hoist from the 6,400-foot elevation, the helicopter crew navigated through complete darkness and deteriorating visibility to execute the hoist in a narrow, obstacle-laden ravine, all the while hovering in a location next to the mountain with a limited emergency flyout route.
What makes this case extraordinary is that we had two rescue swimmers that went far above what they're called to do in order to make things happen and to save a life. Having the opportunity to do a rescue of any kind is fantastic, because when you get to turn around and look at the person who probably would not have made it had you not shown up, it's a very rewarding experience.
Please welcome to the stage tonight's awardees from Sector Columbia River. Lieutenant Commander Nathan Coulter. Lieutenant Benjamin Berman. Lieutenant Leo Lake. AMT-2 Jonathan Randolph. AET-2 James Reiser. And AST-3 Tyler Gansel.